you're never here. When I'm in pain, you hide and disappear like shadows in.
Welcome to the Forge of Champions, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Scoundrel, and I'm joined by a very Irish deck today. I've got Gosu Dreams and Blood Penguin. Boys, how's it going?
Good. It's
yeah,
good.
not too bad. I feel like we should be wearing green just to kind of like really, just to like make it more emphasis.
I'm not wearing the flowers. I wish I'd brought out the flowers as well so we could continue the theme that we've had going through.
Yeah, unfortunately. But we are in the second part of our second stage tournament, which means we're coming down to the very final moments. This week we will crown our champion of the second scoring tournament. We've got some big boys there. We've got some really, really big, hard-hitting teams. I'm looking forward to getting into it. Now, before I dive into today, let's talk about the Forge of Champions as a whole, because we need to discuss the overall tournament and sort of how it's structured. It is quite a confusing system, but we do have a nice graphic to help you guys along with. So let's take a look at that when we get the opportunity, because we'll be able to sort of break down the Forge of Champions as a whole. We'll be able to talk about each individual tournament and so on and so forth. I know, probably from an outside perspective, it can be quite confusing.
Yeah, most certainly can, especially since there's so many tournaments, but I think when we get to this graphic, it'll be a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to go and have a look at that just now. So, the Forge of Champions is split into 4 individual tournaments, each with their own unique rewards. Each tournament has 2 stages, an open stage and a scoring stage. The open stage allows 64 teams from across the UK and Ireland to sign up and compete for a spot in the subsequent scoring stage. The top 8 teams in the tournament will qualify and are seeded based on their finishing position in the open bracket. The scoring stage takes the 8 open teams and matches them with 8 invited teams from the previous Premiership. Here the teams play from a round of 16 bracket with teams earning points based on their final positions at the end of the tournament. The top 8 teams also get a massive chunk of that £50,000 prize pool. Points ramp up over the 4 tournaments, and the 8 teams with the most points at the end of the tournament stage qualify for the Grand Finals. The Grand Finals is where most of our tournament prizing will be doled out, and obviously the lion's share goes to our winner. At the end of this bracket, we will have our overall champion. The teams also have an added incentive with 2 EU Master spots up for grabs. The team with the most points at the end of the tournament stage will automatically qualify, and the second spot going to our overall Grand Final winner. So, there you have it. That was the League, the Forge of Champions in a nutshell. Tried to explain everything as best we could, but if you guys have any more questions, don't be afraid to get in contact with us on social media. You can obviously use Twitter, but you can also use the hashtag Forge of Champions 2 or Forge of Champions. And also, if you guys want to go to YouTube, you can also check out all of the videos from previous Forge of Champions. We have every single VOD of every single game uploaded there, and that is LVP UK on YouTube, and obviously LVP UK on Twitter as well for any questions. So if you have any questions about the tournament, the structure, the prizing, the points, all of those can generally be answered on social media. And like I said, the hashtag Forge of Champions is the way that you get in contact with us, with the team, with everybody behind the scenes. All of us are monitoring that, so if you have any inquiries or just want to talk about your favorites, that is the hashtag that we need to use. So
we're the favorites.
Yeah, obviously we're the favorites. Let's take a look at the bracket as to how far we've got right now, because we are, like I said, in the second part of the scoring tournament. This is the second scoring tournament that we've got. We're in the second part of it now, and you can see here, after the first week, we cut the teams down to 4, with 2 pretty beefy semi-finals coming our way. We've got Diabolus and XL in our first semi-final, and we've got Hyperion and Enclave in our second. I know most of us will be looking forward to that first one. It's going to be a really hype match. Any sort of particular favourites here for you guys?
Out of the Diabolus and Excel game, I think that's going to be so hard to call.
Yeah.
I mean, both these guys have been looking very well. Excel looked a bit shaky at the start, I have to say, but they've definitely come into their own in this tournament. So I'm looking forward to see how they fare up against Diabolus. And I think in Hyperion and Enclave are just kind of be going from strength to strength. So I think it is kind of the Enclave matchup there for me.
Yeah, I'm actually on the Hyperion hype train. Oh. I want them to like have the Croatia run. You know, it's just like it's like they really shouldn't be there, but they're there, and that's the important thing. And the way this tournament, the entire tournament is structured is you have one good run and you can qualify for the finals. That's all it takes is one decent run, and you're in a very strong position. So I'm all for Hyperion.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a good one. Let's take a look at the schedule before we jump in any further. And again, like I said, the first semi-final coming our way will be Diabolus versus XL. That one takes place in roughly 10 minutes. And then we have Hyperion and Enclave later on in about 2 hours' time. So those are our two semi-finals, like we said. We've set up for them. We've talked about the favorites. I think I'm personally in Diabolus and Enclave camps. I think they're probably the strongest teams that we've had across this tournament specifically. I think Diabolus have gone from strength to strength. I do think XL have the opportunity to beat them. I think that will be the closer of our two semi-finals. I think the Enclave Hyperion, like you said, the Hyperion hype train, they have got to go all the way uphill, I think, to sort of derail Enclave, because Enclave have looked really good, and they beat one of our previous best teams in the UK, Misfits, and pretty convincingly as well in the previous tournament, or at least last week anyway. So as we get geared up for this, let's move into our first game. We're going to be looking at, obviously, that big matchup, Diabolus versus XL. It's, I don't even know where to start, because there is so much history with both of these squads. I mean, XL have a rich UK history, and obviously Diabolus, fairly new team, had disappointment in the previous Premiership, but have come back swinging with a very vamped up roster.
Yeah, you can't talk about like UK teams and not mention XL. Like, they're pretty much across the board in everything. And I think especially the roster they have at the moment has just been so strong, and particularly they kind of found their niche, I think, with the funnel strategy that we saw come out twice now in this tournament alone. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they kind of go up. But they got plenty of players that they can play around as well. I mean, Sendo is kind of the big one for me. And then as well, if you're looking at the jungle, like Monkus versus NG as well has been super strong. I'm actually really curious to see how that jungle matchup plays out, because for me, NG has been kind of the assist for everyone on his team. He's been involved in multiple dives across several games, and when he's able to get Flaxus rolling, he's able to get the bot lane rolling. So I think if Monkus can try and contain it, a little bit will work out very well.
I think it's Taxa. I think
Taxa,
Monkus from Enclave. I didn't want to start that one stupidly. But,
I was gonna say, I was like, did he do a roster swap? We weren't aware of.
No, it's Taxa's.
Where's the Twitter drama? We needed that.
I talked about Tax earlier on, and that's why I got mixed up.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Monkus had a very stand-up moment last week. He had a very Taxa moment, which was a big Baron steal, so maybe that's where we got confused a little bit. But yeah, obviously XL have come from the back of what has been an incredible few months for them. They had that big EU Masters run, which basically vilified the UK scene. Like, it was like UK scene was a meme until XL actually came out and pulled all the stops at the EU Masters. Really, you know, giving a good fight to Origin, obviously doing a lot of uphill battles versus people like ClickTech. So XL as a whole did the UK scene proud and put us on the map in terms of European esports. Diabolus have taken European esports and brought it to the UK scene, a little bit like XL did, obviously, with their European roster. But Diabolus as well have got some European superstars in there, like the former Flaxish, you know, and Cookie and Anthrax, all of which have had respective performances across national leagues in Europe. Would you say, Blood Penguin, these are our two strongest teams? Do you think these potentially are our two strongest teams right now?
Controversial opinion, if you like. XL, I don't believe are the strongest team, or even top two, in my personal opinion.
That's some spice.
I honestly think that they're taking too long to ramp up. I feel like they're kind of like, yes, they're slowly getting bit by bit better, but look at Diabolus, who in no kind of, short way destroyed their first final. Like, they wrecked. They look so strong. No one's really given them a huge amount of trouble right now. I feel like they've kind of been, cool, we're here, Gear 5, let's go, and they're just rolling. So I do believe Diabolus are the top team. I don't know if XL are quite there. I think maybe towards the end of the tournament, maybe if they make the playoffs, which they should, we are expecting them to, they might have ramped up by then. But right now, I think Diabolus number 1, I think maybe XL number 4.
Number 4. So what's your number 2 and number 3?
I would say Enclave number 2.
I think I can say that.
I would say Enclave number 2, and I'm kind of in a toss-up, really. I think Wind and Rain would be probably my number 3. I think they've done pretty decently. I think their roster looks very, very strong. In the games they had played, it was like fairly decent, outings, apart from the Diabolus one. But I think, Wind and Rain and Diabolus would be my top 2.
I like this game. I'm going to do it to you as well, Rob.
Yeah.
Your top 4 in the current standings. Your top 4 based on performance so far for you.
Well, I got to give it to Diabolus as well. I think they just are kind of head and shoulders above the rest right now, and it's very difficult to see teams that, I think it's kind of like, obviously it takes a little bit of time for teams to get together. A lot of these guys are kind of new coming through, and that's why we have several of these scoring tournaments. But Diabolus just seem to click like that, and they just look so strong across every single position. So if I'm looking at number 2, I think it would be Enclave as well. It's that 3 and 4 position, I'm not sure, because you've got so many strong teams there, like Excel, Misfits, Wind and Rain. Like, I find it so hard to call them, because there's been very little consistency across the teams. Like Excel have looked very strong this tournament, but not so hot the last time. Same with some of the other guys as well, like Wind and Rain have had their upsets. I mean, even the Irish roster, Phelan was taking a game off of Misfits, which was kind of
That's
the
getting in there,
upsets. It was
didn't
like,
you?
yeah, just push that one. It's like, Ireland.
Representation.
But realistically, you know, these are the guys. I got to put them down now, but it's like these are guys that they shouldn't be giving up games to. So when they're losing out on a game here and there to these teams, that's where I'm kind of putting up the question mark. So I find it very hard to rank those 3 teams.
Yeah, I think we have got really tight competition at the top of the table. I do agree with both of your assessment. Diabolus right now are far and away one of the strongest teams based on performance so far. I think, like you said, XL are probably ramping up. I would be XL Enclave on a level pegging maybe for 2, and then I couldn't really call it after that. I think we've got such a close bag of teams. I think Misfits have really dropped from where they were previously. I think they need to find some sort of rhythm in their gameplay again. I still don't doubt they'll make top 8 to go to Grand Finals, but I do think there's a lot of soul-searching to be done for that team over the next couple of
tournaments. I think the rhythm part is kind of the thing, because we've seen it in LCS where it's teams need to find their rhythm, their dance that works for them. Like you were talking about Misfits earlier on, who kind of stick to that ADC or the traditional bot lanes, and it's been working for them. We've seen Fnatic have swapped up their top laner, got rid of Reckless. I mean, you kind of need to have these teams find what works for them, and that's very hard to do in such a short period of time. So I think it's just a case of these guys are starting to find them rhythm. You're seeing, like, for these for Excel, they're kind of going the G2 route with the funnel strategy. You're seeing, like, for the likes of Venzer, he's much more on that traditional ADC thing. I think it's just a case of these guys starting to find the rhythm and find where they want to go with it.
We're going to be jumping into Champion Select as soon as we physically can. Obviously, we are just waiting for both the teams to be ready. The match isn't due to start for 4 minutes or so they're probably just having some last-minute prep time. But as soon as we are ready to jump into Champion Select, we will for our first semi-final here in the second scoring tournament. So anyway, we have to I think we have to think a little bit about this specific matchup now, because I know we've kind of talked about holistically the Forge of Champions and where we sort of see the teams at right now. But this specific matchup, most people peg it as a Diabolus favorite coming in. But for you, if you were to say, I'm going to offer you a flip side of the coin here, what do XL actually need to do well? What do they need to execute on to make sure that this is a potential victory for them?
I think they gotta try and contain the top lane. I mean, Sendo versus Flaxish is gonna be such an interesting matchup to see. Both of these guys are carries. Flaxish, coming from Movistar, obviously over in LVP, was kind of this big Yasuo Fiora player, this split push guy, and now he's kind of settled back towards that Mundo, the Renekton, kind of a bit of a different style coming out, at least with the Mundo. So I think if Sendo can try and contain that and not die to the early pressure that comes out from Diabolos in a lot of situations, I think they can actually do pretty well. The other part that I'm kind of questioning is how Venzer and Hado match up against Cookie and Anthrax, because these guys, Cookie and Anthrax, have picked up multiple different kills against multiple different bot lanes and just look so dominating. I want to see how these guys, Venzer in particular, who's supposed to be the carry for XL, how he holds up for these.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, unlocking Venzer, I feel, is the key. Venzer is the guy you want who just kind of absolutely takes over games and really pushes your team to like that mid-game spike, you know, that 20 minutes where you're like, okay, we're in a really strong position, let's take a really early Baron. Because the meta right now is in such a place that when you're at 23-24 minutes, you lose a team fight, game over, it's done.
Yeah.
And it can be so quick, it can be such a small mistake that I feel like when you have such a mechanically, you know, good AD carry in your bot lane, getting him ahead and getting him into a position where he can literally just put you all on his back and go, cool guys, we're going for the W. That's what I want to see from XL.
I think I agree. I think you look at the XL roster and you say Venzer in the EU Masters on Kai'Sa was probably a standout performer. He's been doing that time and time again here in the Forge of Champions. I imagine that will get banned against him. I don't think we'll see Kai'Sa today. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the meta is in this weird place where you can't really draft a late game, but if you do draft late game, it's usually funnel on a late game champion to accelerate their late game so that around 25 minutes they're hitting power spikes that they would have usually been doing at 30+. And I think something that I've seen Diabolus be a lot better at than XL. XL always seem to fluff mid-game. I don't know what it is about them. They always seem to come into key Baron points, key Dragon points, and somehow make a throw, somehow pull off something that we know they can do better at. Whereas Diabolus, on the flip side, they are much more clinical when it comes to executing on mid-game objectives. And I think that really is, for me, the important part of this matchup. It has to come down to this mid-game clinical execution, and Diabolus have shown time and time again that they are better at doing it.
Yeah, I think for Diabolus in particular, they just have a very clear game plan coming into all their things. It's, you know, every time it's, we're going to play around Flaxish, we're going to have Zeph wander up, he's going to come and dive with NG, and that's incredibly difficult to deal with in a lot of situations, particularly for... this is why I'm kind of highlighting Sendo. I'm very worried for Sendo in this. He doesn't get a lot of pressure, and I think when you're up against what is essentially almost guaranteed a 3-man dive, how are you going to play around that? And if he can smartly play around that, I think they'll be in a lot better position.
So we're into picks and bans now, ladies and gentlemen. Our first match between Diabolus and XL is underway, and you can see the bans already coming out. The Aatrox ban, although Aatrox is strong right now, Flaxix especially has shown his mastery on that very early on into the rework, and we finally see a Talia ban come through, something that Taxa has played an incredible amount in the jungle, and also we know that Rippy can flex into the mid lane, so it's actually a good pick overall for XL, even though Cromel is now gone. Talia has still been a power pick for XL.
Rest in pepperonis, Cromel. He's smurfing in Germany now, so it's fine.
So this is interesting. They first picked Rakan here. Obviously, Rakan can go to the jungle. But what I think it does do for XL is that either they have to pick something like the Xayah, or you risk giving over Xayah Rakan if you want to give that over in the bot lane. And that kind of maybe puts the pressure onto XL to not pick the Kai'Sa.
I want to see Sendu on this Yasuo. I want him to take Flaxish and just kind of go, nope, I'm the Yasuo guy. And I want to see it put the top lane. But something I did also want to mention as well is that we are on the live patch that just went live. TP is heavily nerfed right now. The cooldown on it has gone from 300 seconds to 360 seconds. It's now when you cancel it, it's no longer 200 seconds, 240 seconds. We did the math yesterday. At level 11, you can get 2 Stan United Channels before you get your TP back up. It's massive for both sides. So I'm curious to see if we do see both sides actually going for those kind of massive TPs or not.
Okay, this is actually kind of interesting. So the only matchup I've seen Flaxish struggle on when he's on Mundo was when Rift picked up the Darius and he just wiped the floor with him. So this is, I like this pickup for Sendo, that he's just got this big carry that can come through from the top lane. I'm hoping to see if he can survive the pressure that's going to come through, but this is perfect for him right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It gives him 1v1 pressure versus the Mundo. It might do the classic draw pressure from NG and Zeph up towards the top lane, but Darius is one of those top laners that, you know, with a well-placed Q, he can actually survive a lot of tower dive pressure. He can also turn around and get a slam dunk kill really easily also. And now we're waiting to see how this shapes up the rest of the draft. The fact that the Yasuo lock is locked in, maybe flexes between Rippy and Venza here. Maybe you see Venza go Alistair, Yasuo bot. For an all-in. I mean, I think that struggles versus maybe a little bit versus the Xayah Rakan.
It does, and it doesn't really strike me as a Venzer champ. Like, I don't think I've ever seen him kind of go, oh yeah, I'm going to lock in the Yasuo now. That doesn't really strike me as the...
I've seen a lot of funnel Yasuos recently, and Yasuo can actually hit like a beast in the late game. Like, he's actually one of those guys that can 1v5 if played correctly, but you have to be like a top tier Yasuo player. Let's have a look at the rest of the bans coming through now. You can see the Kindred and the Aurelion Soul, followed by the Graggy, who is really strong right now, actually. Graggy's in a great position, and Lulu also banned. If you are XL here, Rob, what would you be thinking about? Just get, I mean, you have to make some predictions on draft.
I'm looking at Sejuani. I think XL would do really well picking up the Sejuani. There you go. Appreciate it, guys. But yeah, it works super nice. You got nice engage, you got good control of the skirmish, particularly with something like the Kindred's banned away, so there's not really an awful lot that can go against her in the early game. I mean, Graves, I think Graves is still up at the moment, so maybe, but, actually, Zach, we saw that come out a little bit over in, I think it was in North America they picked it up. And, sorry, actually it wasn't. It was Griffin over in LCK who picked it up 2 games in a row. So.
Very supportive style jungler. My one worry here is actually, is there just a lack of damage from Diabolus? Like, in terms of consistent teamfight damage, you've really only got Xayah.
Yeah, I think Zoe can do a surprising amount. She did get nerfed. She got the W nerfed, but that's not really the issue when the paddle star is tearing through you. So I actually kind of... Oh, actually, you're right. Venzer in the bot lane and the Yasuo, but I do like the compositions coming out from Diablos. The biggest thing I'm looking at right now is actually that Xayah Rakan in that bottom lane. Is how do Venzer and Quickset go up against this? Because that's a heap of engage that's coming through on a consistent basis, and you're playing around that wind wall, which has a very long cooldown at the early stages. So I'm worried that Cookie and Anthrax can just take over this lane.
I'm looking at this composition and I'm thinking if this gets to late game and we're straight up team fighting, I'd probably favor XL. Just though I think they've got a strictly better team fight. Whereas I do think the composition from Diabolus is much easier to snowball. Like, if the bot lane goes in their favor, the Xayah pops off and the Zoe can roam a lot. That's something that Diabolus can roll through with the mid game. That's potentially where I'm looking. Now, BP. I'm going to call you BP.
Much easier.
Which matchups are you interested in here? Just simply from the players themselves. What are you interested in seeing, in terms of who needs to perform? Who do you think really rests on the shoulders of either squad?
Right now, honestly, just as you were saying in Champs, like the Darius versus Mundo, like the Flaxius versus Sendo, we've talked about it quite a bit, but the fact that Flaxius literally got stomped by a Darius as he was a Mundo, like it's one of those things that kind of like as a player you can sometimes get into the back of your head. It's like, this is a quote-unquote counter to you. You need to be able to deal with it. I think Sendo is in a really, really strong position if he gets the attention he needs in order to snowball that lane. Get his Triforce nice and early, get really good roams down, and apprehend onto the Xayah. That you have no damage. There's nothing left. If the Xayah gets caught on the side of Diabolus, done, dusted. Unfortunately, if you look on the other side, if the Mundo gets going and the Darius goes behind, then there's no way you can kill the Mundo. That's the kind of the matchup I'm looking to see.
Actually, Rob, if we look over I'm going to call you Rob instead of Gosu. I'm calling him BP and you Rob. If we look at these two competitions, where are the win conditions for either squad? Because obviously something that we always like to talk about and always like to relay is win conditions for either composition. What do you feel the win conditions are for Diabolus and Excel here?
So if I'm looking at this side of Excel, it's definitely just wait till late. I mean, Vladimir, well, not late, say 2 to 3 items. Because Vladimir gets very strong once he's able to pick up that Spellbinder plus his other item, and he's just able to take over. Same with Yasuo. Yasuo does great when he gets his Zeal item, plus he gets his Infinity Edge. So I think in that respect, you're kind of hanging on to those points, and then you've got a very strong wombo combo that can come through with that Hemoplague, with the Yasuo ultimate, and just with the easy setup coming through from Alistar as well. If I'm looking on the side of Diabolos, though, I'm looking at these guys want to set up. Because if you look at Excel, when they're coming into these team fights, they're going to be very clumped. You don't have a lot of like a front line versus back line. It's Rippy wants to dive the back line, Benzer wants to dive the back line. Everyone's going to be diving forward. And if I'm looking at the side of Diabolos, it's like, cool, great. If we've got our sides covered, we've got ourselves warded, and we're working in towards these objectives like Baron, where we're safe and we know we're able to take these fights. They've got a very separated front line and back line, and I don't see how the side of Excel can get into that. So I'm looking for how do the flanks from Excel work out versus the vision control for Diabolos. I think that's really where it's going to be paramount.
And something that I think Diabolos has shown them to be quite excellent at is their laning pressure. Something that they've won most of their games from is something similar to what we saw from the Renegade Banditos year and so ago. Where it was
the dark ages of
the dark ages of the UK scene, where it was just a situation where it was win lane, win game. Now, not many of these matchups for me are like a win lane matchup. Mundo's not a super win lane matchup versus Darius. Zoe versus Vladimir, I think it's kind of here or there. The bot lane potentially, the Xayah Rakan could look to run away with this. What do you think about this, BP?
Ward your flanks. When you're against the Zac, and I see it so many times, is that people just completely disrespect the long range engage that he's got going from. Zac has got so many ways of just jumping in and creating something from what can potentially be nothing. If you're on the side of XL, you need to be warding those flanks consistently and constantly. Yes, you want to be diving the back line, but if you have no idea where the Zac is and 2 of your guys go forward and 3 of them on the back, Zac jumps on the back line with the Mundo, you're screwed. Diabolos have got themselves in a pretty standard setup or traditional, if we want to call it, setup in terms of their team comp. I'd be interested to see exactly how they really kind of push for that vision control, like you say, the win lane kind of setup. Because if they can get the Zac to get those lanes going, they could be huge. Right,
I'm gonna press you boys now. If you make a prediction, and I'm not going to make you make a prediction for each game. I'm going to make you make a prediction for the series, and I want a score. So, okay, I'm going to start with you, Rob.
I think it's going to be, yeah, 1 game up to Diabolos is going to be the end results, because I think they're just going to look a lot better. I like the composition that they have in this one in particular, and I thought that Excel might have been able to bring out something funky to begin with, and they kind of have with the Yasuo in the bot lane, but I think they didn't pick the matchups correctly to go into it, so I think they've kind of shown their cards, and now they mightn't have anything else to follow up with.
So what you're saying is 2-1.
2-1, sorry, yeah, 1 game over.
Yeah.
2-1. You're going to 2-1 Diabolos.
Yeah.
Is this? I'm going to go. You know what? My underdog heart is basically screaming at me, just kind of going like, pick the Yasuo. It could be huge. So I'm going to go with 2-1 XL. I think XL will win this game. I think Diabolus will win the next. I think XL will take it after that. So I think
okay.
that's my prediction.
This is bold. This
Yeah.
is bold. I'm not going to make a prediction because I'm the host. So I
You
don't
get to
I
cop
don't-
out because you're the host. Yeah.
so I don't have
He
to.
has to maintain neutral. Like.
Oh yeah.
But I actually think I prefer XL's draft from this game personally.
Yes.
But I think
It's going to be really sad when you're both wrong.
Yeah.
You know that?
It's all right. You can buy me a drink when we get back when you lose.
Yeah.
my worry is that if this lane that I think can be quite difficult to execute on, the Yasuo Alistair, if they let the Xayah Rakan pop off. Now, Xayah's power level is significantly lower than it used to be, but she's still super strong in the mid game if she gets rolling. Usually going to go for Storm Razor into a rapid fire cannon is like the standard AD carry build right now. That, if you get that early, that can start to chunk real hard. So my one worry is that bot lane for XL, and if you're drawing bot lane pressure because you might need it for XL, that opens up for the top lane, which I think a Darius behind feels like a wet fish. Like he really, really doesn't do much. You know, you slapping him around, and honestly the damage is so low. And we've seen time and time again that Diabolus love this 3-man top lane dive. They love to put pressure on. So that is my worry, because XL might need that bot lane pressure that might draw resources away from the top side of the map, and top side of the map is where Diabolus steamroll people. It's not a great matchup for Flaxish, but that's what you have to consider.
Well, I would 100% agree from you. Apart, we saw that one game where they actually stuck Flaxich on Malphite, and then they five-man dove bot super early. And I feel like when you've got a Zac, when you've got a Mundo, you've got a Zoe, and you've got a Rakan there as well to just set up this Xayah so well, I'm incredibly worried that nowhere on this bottom side of the map is safe for Venzer and Hado. I don't know where they go, because there's just going to be so much engage. There's not any way that they can really cover all their flanks, as you were pointing out, and this is kind of the make or break for me, is whether Venzer can get through safely on this Yasuo. If he can get through the laning phase, they're in great shape, but if he starts to fall behind, that's a big chunk of their damage that they need.
They can
gone.
all in like level 2 and they can all in level 6, right? So,
Yeah.
they've got some kind of areas where they could potentially look to exploit some damage, but obviously the disengage of Rakan is really strong as well, so they do have to be careful with that.
Something that we actually haven't really touched on at all is just the Sejuani, and I think the Sejuani could be pivotal in terms of how these lanes go.
Absolutely, Sejuani could be very, very powerful. Now, we are jumping into the game. The first of the game between XL and Diabolus is actually already started, so I'm going to hand over to Blood Penguin and Gosu.
Thank you very much, Excoundrel. And yes, we are into game, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Summoner's Rift for Game 1 of this Forge of Champions 2 semi-final. I will be your play-by-play, joined by the beautiful Gosu Dreams as my caller. He'll be explaining why everyone does everything, and I'll just be shouting at the screen.
I'm glad you said that I was beautiful as the lights turned off. Is that kind of how it works? It's like, you know, once there's nothing to illuminate my face, I'm gorgeous.
It's like how a club works, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, you know, you see like what you potentially an 8, but actually ends up being a 4, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh no, turn off the lights, it's all good.
I was wondering what all the empty tequila bottles were doing over there.
Yeah. But we see already early kind of, you know, scuttle priority being put there. Both bot lanes roaming up. It was the side of Diabolus on the blue side that did end up getting that one, but kind of, you know, looking at you or looking at through your lens as such, where do you see this kind of early game going? Do you see it being super standard? Do you see them just kind of ramping up, wait until they have the easy objectives like we talked about? Or, you know, do you see the junglers being a little bit more of an influence?
Yeah, I think the junglers are going to be the big influence, but I'm going to have to hang on.
We'll
never mind.
No, never mind. We're all good.
But yeah, I think the jungler is going to be the big influence here. You were talking about Taxer, who has been on the Sejuani, and I feel like that's nearly a pick away from NG as well, because he's looked so strong on that Sejuani pick. So having that nabbed away, Taxer's able to put down a little bit more help around these scuttle crabs in the early game, particularly around in skirmishes. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that one goes down. And again, I think it is pivotal around this bot lane. As we were saying, a great amount of setup there. If you can get the Sejuani going, you got quick set to follow up. Venzer can dash through then, and you can very quickly pick off the likes of Cookie, who's going to be a little bit vulnerable before she has the Feather Storm available at that level 6. So I'm looking at both of these guys. Although, as I say that, actually, it's going to be NG's backing away, but he's got a little bit more pressure, I think, on the bottom side. He's got multiple different routes, particularly since he's on the blue side. You can come through Tribush, you can hop over that wall, which is so devastating for any red side team. You can also move in towards that brush just in river. You can even come in from behind. This is pretty much blue side. Zac is so strong down around that bottom side of the map. So this is where I'd really like to see him try and put the pressure down and try to get Cookie ahead, because Zeph is going to do a bunch of damage anyway. It's going to be Cookie who really needs to be the one to get rolling and be your consistent damage.
see how it all fans out. Early backs from a couple of people. We see a blasting one there onto Zeph in that mid lane with the Zoe. We see the enchantment as well, but again, you know, nothing really crazy supposedly going to happen, but it is a Mountain Drake first spawn, so that could be a massive contention point.
Yeah, and that's why I think, again, playing around the spot side is a good idea, although as I say that, they're looking to get Sendo rolling against Flaxish.
Yeah, they do get the apprehend and the stun. They're going to be able to take him very, very low, but he's also going to take Sejuani low, but it doesn't matter. It is Sendu who sends him to the grey screen. Yeah,
and I feel like Flaxish is kind of an all-or-nothing guy. This was kind of what they remarked on when he was coming from the LVP, from Movistar into this roster. Was like, look, if this guy gets rolling, he looks magnificent, he looks beautiful, but if he starts to fall behind, he can really end up just hurting the team. Now, the last time we saw him go super far behind in this matchup, he ended up TPing bot and he got a triple kill. So that kind of helps out when you've had a bad laning phase, but you can't guarantee that against a team of the caliber of Excel. So I think if you can start to get him further and further behind, maybe you can just get Sendo to take over this game.
And that's what we talked about in the pre-game lobby as well. Sendu is a massive Darius player in the sense of, like, you know, he can take over that lane. If he gets his Triforce nice and early, that does so much early game damage that you just cannot deal with. So we'll have to keep an eye on that top side. But at the moment, we're seeing actually, in the bot side, a little bit of a CS lead for Venzer. He's doing pretty decently against this Xayah Rakan, which is something we don't really expect when you see kind of two melees versus two ranges.
Yeah, he is managing to pick up a good chunk of farm, and I think that's just because of the lack of vision right now coming through for Diabolus on that bottom side of the map. They don't really know where the Sejuani is, and you can see she's hovering down that side. All their vision is centered on that top, so they know she has to be down in this bottom side of the jungle down near that blue buff. So playing a little bit safe at the moment, but I'm looking to see if they try and freeze this wave. Actually, there's going to be the back coming through, so they probably will try and shove that one out, but because you're going to be able to try and freeze that wave just nicely for yourselves, it makes it very difficult for that level 6 combo we were talking about from Venzer and Quickset to come through, because you can't really dive a turret. Well, at least you don't really want to be diving the turret against Cookie and Anthrax at that level 6 point. So it means they've got a little bit of safety there, and especially when they don't really have vision in the bottom side of the jungle, making that aggressive play when you're not sure where NG is would be a little bit hurtful for your side.
Vision control now the name of the game. Like you said, it's going to be very important for everyone to know where the enemy jungler is. Sejuani takes out a pink ward and walks away. Does simultaneously give away her position. Blue buff trying to be transferred over to the Zoe. Successfully done with Sejuani waiting in the sidelines.
Quickset, where are you going?
Yeah, actually going to get caught out. Does have the flash and use the exhaust that she picked up from her W. There's a cleanse as well, but Ignite goes down! And Zeph is looking at Grey.
And that is a great call coming through from Excel. You can see Quickset roamed up, Rippy had moved across, and Taxer spotted out Zeph as he moved across to pick up that blue buff. So they already had this pre-planned. It's like, look, we have the pressure on the top side of the map. If this all goes disastrously, we're going to have the Darius who's doing way better than the Mundo. We're going to have the help of Quickset up there as well. We can take these fights, and they end up picking up first blood from us.
And the fact that the Alistair was able to roam up as well as a little bit of extra insurance while Yasuo perfectly safe in this lane is pretty huge as well for the side of XL.
And it was a very small window that they had to do that with because the Alistair picked up the Moby boots. It means he gets back to lane that little bit faster. Venzer's not going to miss out on a huge amount of CS, and they can put that pressure down. It's just XL abusing these small, tiny windows that they have and as an advantage, which is exactly what they need to do against a team like Diabolus.
I am loving Sendo's first item. I love it so much. We're going to have a quick replay, though, of that little bit of engage. And talk me through this. How does this even go wrong for Zeph? He doesn't even have a clue that the Sejuani's there.
Yeah, if you actually look, Sejuani's skirted around that ward that they have there. Taxer knows that this blue has to go over. The Predator from Rippy as well kind of gave him that false sense of security. He's like, there's no way he can cover this amount of distance. But once that was popped, walk straight into them, and it's an easy pickup at that stage. There's not much NG can do there as well because of how squishy Zeph is. He's just going to land himself in a heap of trouble, just like Flaxish.
Yeah, Flaxish does get stunned, will not get apprehended, but does get the flash out of him. So Flaxish now without a summoner in that top side, still waiting for his TP to come up. And what I was just about to say before we went into that replay, the Executioner's calling onto that Darius is so big. It's 800 gold. It's a little bit of an investment because it only kind of builds into one thing realistically, but it just puts the Mundo down so hard. It stops him once he hits that level 6 from really turning around a 2v1 and getting it alive. It can really help your team.
Yeah, and especially when you're looking to put the pressure down. As we can see, Taxer's consistently up in this top lane. It means that then you're going to want to have some way of reducing the healing from that ultimate. So an early Executioner calling is really the best way to do it. I actually want to point out NG right now, because as I was watching the games that Diabolos all did fantastically, and it was NG who was consistently the focal point of their energy. It was like, great, we're either going to get top rolling, we're going to get bot rolling, but it was NG in the face of the other team consistently. And we haven't really seen that this game. He's been outpaced by Taxter on the Sejuani, which is exactly what's going to happen, but he hasn't found a home for himself in any of these lanes. It just feels like he's fallen further and further behind, and now that they're behind in mid lane as well with that kill, it just means he's got less areas that he can really have that impact that we need, or at least Diabolos need, from NG.
And, you know, kind of the Zac pick as well, it doesn't really lend itself to kind of, you know, Sejuani falls a little bit behind, not a big deal. She's still got a lot of, you know, the stuns, still got a lot of utility and stuff like that, but Zac needs pressure. Zac needs his lanes to be doing well so he can actually get those ganks off. And all that pressure, all that kind of jungle pressure you were talking about leads to Mountain Drake going over to the side of XL.
So I'm not one to flip-flop. But
but you lost.
But yeah, I mean, this is just great play coming through from XL. I was kind of curious to see how they were going to play when they weren't playing funnel. I mean, we did see the nerfs come through. This is 8.14, so we saw the nerfs to the jungle items, and we were kind of questioning how big are these impacts going to be. And I mean, XL have just strayed away entirely from this funnel strategy right now, and this was where we saw them having the most success, where they look the most cohesive. But right now they look like an absolutely unstoppable force that is just cascading on top of Diabolos.
Yeah, and Diabolos need to find something now. It's definitely not over. We are 11 minutes into the game. It's just it's a shaky early game. That's what we'll call it. It's a shaky early game, Diabolos. But you know, like we were talking with Excounded on the desk, it's that Diabolos are the kind of team that, you know, they win from lanes. They win from the early game. They're super strong. We've always known them to be super strong. So this is a, you know, to quote the greatest meme of all time, a worrying trend. So they're clearly going to lose all the games. Exactly, yeah, 100%. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
No, see, this is the thing. Like, Diabolos, as you're saying, like, they win lane, they start to push through from that. They seem to be very formula-based team, where they're kind of like, okay, cool, we get Flaxish ahead, then we pick up the thing around, or whatever the objective is up that way, like the Rift Herald, we'll pick up a tower, pick up something. And as I'm saying that, actually, hey, look, 4 men top. This is classic Diabolos.
This is classic Diabolos, as we see now. It's going to be a full-on engage as Vladimir tries to come in as well. Nobody has dropped just yet. The Xayah ultimate does pick up off the Darius on the backside, so that is one over to the side of Diabolos. But they just don't have the damage to keep pushing onto this Flaxish. Gonna throw it. Oh! Double stopwatch, and it's going to be Rippy who picks that one 1-for-1. XL, though, turning the tides.
And they read Diabolos so well. We were just saying textbook Diabolos. No, don't do that.
Oh, Alistair, he's tanky, but how tanky is he? Actually, he engage! Massive, huge engage there as Venzer comes off the backside, and we're going to see a lot of flashes. You, Zeph, you are in no man's land, my friend. You have absolutely nowhere to go. He's picking up summoners left, right, and center. He does the best that he can, picks up a 1-for-1.
That is insane play coming through from XL. We were just talking about textbook Diabolos. Get that dive down in the early stages. Between that, you know, 13 to 9 minute mark is where they've gone for this play over and over. And XL read them like a book, and you can see it just coming through here. NG is going to lead up the dive. They're backing away, and look how quickly they all collapse here. You can see Yasuo and Quickset, Venzer running the entire way from mid lane to get into this play. It was a great engage to start off with. Sendo does go down, but the remaining members of XL that are here can survive for so long. And Taxer going golden as well, just to show off a little bit. But you can see here, XL, they collapse, they end up coming up. And I was very worried for Quickset here. I was like, no, you run into 4 members, it's all over. But the great engage, the 3-man knock-up, and XL just run away with this. This is just a completely different beast that XL are showing today.
The amount of summoner spells that Zeph picked up was ridiculous. It was just flash, 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 flash. But at the end of the day, Diabolos looked kind of impatient. They looked like, okay, we need something big to go our way, and it was completely and utterly called by the side of XL. It was, you know, yes, they didn't come out of it completely unscathed. They did give away 2 kills, but at the end of the day, that's a 4-man dive that you're losing. That's not going to feel good.
No, not even close. But and if you look as well, I mean, like, it's pushing to 15 minutes. We've got Vladimir with 3 kills. We've got our Yasuo with 2 kills. And pretty much everyone who should be picking up supportive kills has the assists. And this is just perfect for XL. This Vladimir now has picked up the Hextech Proto Belt. He's well on his way towards that Spellbinder. Yasuo has the Phantom Dancer completed. So these guys are just going to take over this game now. And we were talking about the Wombo combo that was there. This has now just been emphasized even more.
Yeah, emphasized and accelerated, as you would say, for the side of XL. But Diabolus, they're not out of it yet. Xayah still very, very reliable the longer the game goes on. Zoe, with the Q Battlestar, can still do a stupid amount of damage. And Mundo just becomes a meat shield that you just cannot kill later in the game. But it's about kind of, you know, the game now becomes a stall game for the side of Diabolus.
You just kind of pushed onto Zeph there. I was like, who does Zeph really have to target here? But I'm going to have to hold my point for a second, as XL have found the Zac.
Yeah, they have found the Zac, and he will end up going golden. Does have the stopwatch for a brief second, but Zoe off on the backside, as well as the Rakan trying to use the charm. TPU's onto the Zac Bloblet as well. Flash is being burned as well. Mundo joins the fight. There's no kills going over. A lot invested from both sides, neither coming out with a kill.
Yeah, I am so surprised that NG didn't go down there, but you've wasted a huge amount of the spells that you need. You're low on health. Diabolos have got to back. They're going to pick up the Rift Herald here for themselves, and this is just going from bad to worse for Diabolos. XL are running away with the game, and this is so different from what we've seen. We were talking about, yes, they have a strong early game, but their mid game is not where they shine. They're shining like a light right now.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is as well, we talked about it a little bit in the pre-game, but TP being used, that's 6 minutes. There'll be 21 minutes by the time he gets that TP back on the Mundo. That is absolutely ridiculous amounts of times. Rift Herald going to be bopped off into the top side. So we're going to see that one now used to take down another turret, or sorry, the first turret, I should say, in favor of XL. Mid lane was getting pressured. It's going to be Sendu who's sent to deal with that. Flaxis just going to push back as well. And we see now next Drake will be an Ocean. Not exactly the most contestable, but you would imagine the side of XL, we want to be picking that one up. We want to keep the momentum going strong.
And this is what I wanted to touch on just before all that elaborateness happened in the jungle on the side of Diabolos, is Zeph. Who do you pick off as this guy? Because Rippy is going to have the pool. Venzer is going to have that wind wall. Quickset is going to be way too beefy for you. You can't really take him down. And Sendo ideally shouldn't really be in the fight. So your attempt at assassinating someone is Taxer. And even then, Venzer can move in front to try and block the damage that's coming through. So when you're looking at these guys who are suddenly getting snowballed and suddenly running away with the game, it becomes very hard for you to try and pick off one guy that can get that turnaround. So realistically, Diabolos right now are waiting for a mistake from XL, and with the way this game is going, XL don't really look like they're going to be giving them one.
Yeah, it's not all doom and gloom though for Diabolos. They did get that mid lane turret that opens up a lot of the map. That's very much what you want when you have a Zac and a Zoe. Get those flanks going, get those kind of, you know, engages from the sides. That's what you're looking to get. But I do agree with you that it's looking, they need to try and find something out of this, because right now they're just not got a lot to work with.
Yeah, and I think coming back to that vision is kind of where Diabolos have a little bit of a lead right now. If you look at where the vision is positioned on the map, it was heavily in Diabolos' favor. Now XL are kind of realizing, okay, cool, we gotta try and clear this out. We gotta get this back in our favor, but it's still pretty defensive. It's in the river. It hasn't really encroached into the jungle of Diabolos yet, which is where they really want to be getting it, which is what they're doing now.
Yeah, they jump straight in. We see the ultimates from Rakan and Xayah both used, with a stun lands onto the Xayah. There is the Glacial Prison, not able to hit. Zac goes in, but Vlad picks up a kill. That is one dead for the side of Diabolos. They're gonna get two. Double kill for the Vlad, as NG just forced to run away as fast as he can, but sadly enough, he will go down, and that is going to be another kill going over to the side of XL. 3 for nothing, and they get priority into the spotlight.
XL are giving Diabolos a taste of their own medicine. How does it feel to get dove by several members on the bottom side of the map? It's working out great for XL right now. They've taken the top lane turret, they've taken the bottom lane turret, and now all that stands in their way of outer turrets is that mid lane, and that's not going to be long for this world with how heavily XL are accelerating this game.
Yeah, and it's such a quick turn as well. They had started the dragon as well, and it was immediately like, cool, they have no vision. They know, they have no vision. Go straight on top of it. Great call there from the Alistair and Yasuo combo with the Sejuani coming in off the back.
And the thing about the way XL are starting to accelerate this game is that it's been well paced. So you can see we're getting to 19 minutes. Baron's going to be coming up shortly. There's still that mid lane turret. So there's things that Diabolos have to try and fight for. So as you're starting to come online, like, look at the items for this Vladimir. He's got the Rabadon's death cap completed already. This guy is going to dish out massive amount of damage, and there's nothing that Diabolos can do. If you try to walk in towards these objectives, try to keep your towers safe, you're going to have a massive diving team in the likes of Venzer, in Quickset, who are just going to wipe you out.
Yeah, we actually see, as you say, diving team. 4 members of Diabolos are in that spot side. They want to try and go for something. Seth does throw out the Sleepy Bubble Trouble, does land onto the Alistair. No follow-up damage, though, as the Vladimir here for wave clear. And look how quick he's able to clear that wave. It is ridiculous. There's not a huge amount available for Diabolos. They can try go for these dives, but honestly, right now, I think it's a little too late.
I mean, you can't. Look at Sendo. Sendo's like, cool, you're not going to put Flaxish against me anymore? I'll just take the tower.
Yep, this is what we're talking about. He's got the Triforce, he's got the Executioner's calling, excuse me. What's Flaxish going to do apart from flash in?
Get him, Flaxish. That's
you do it. Yeah. That's what you got to do. Be the carry you always wanted to be.
You asked him. I mean,
I did. I asked him what he was going to do, and apparently flash in and scare the hell out of Sendo.
Remember we were talking about, you know, feast and famine, and you can get a little bit tilted. I mean, that's certainly not going to help. But
well, hey, let's not. No, in fairness to him, the tower is still alive. That tier 2 is still up. He able to pick up that massive.
Towards the flash. It was totally the flash.
Yeah, it was totally worth the flash. But now he's no summoners. We might see an invade. Oh, another great engage, and Rakan is deleted as the rest of the fight keeps going on. Venzer trying to do as much damage with the with Rippy on the backside, but it looks like Diabolos trying to turn this around. They get the shutdown on top of Vladimir. And actually a lot more damage coming down here as well as Sejuani goes asleep. Taxer and Venzer, you're in a really bad situation. It's going to be Zeph picking up another kill as the Yasuo just tries to run away. Not really able to go anywhere, my friend. Venzer, you are delaying and delaying and delaying, and eventually will fall down to NG. And that was very much a botched dive.
Yeah, I mean, it looked great to begin with. We saw that a Quickset and Venzer had that great engage coming through, but like this is where it looked great, but there was just too many members of Diabolos collapsing too quickly. A great ultimate coming through from NG as well just means that Excel end up just so far back, so split up. They're taking damage from multiple different towers, and this is a very different style from the other ones that we've seen. Yes, they want to come in on the flanks, but they are diving tier 2 towers. It's not that late in the game. You don't really have the tankiness on Taxer to do that, and they pay dearly for it.
Yeah, I think as well in that fight, you saw that the dive immediately became split, and a lot was used onto Anthrax's Rakan. A huge amount of your damage and lockdown was used. Like Sejuani ultimate, the Vladimir ult like only hit 2 people, the Hemo Plague. So a lot of damage was kind of like nullified by the fact that not everyone was clumped together. That gave time for the side of Zoe and Xayah to just split off onto 2 different sides and then dish out the damage. So not all doom and gloom, as we said, for the side of Diabolos, but they needed probably another 1 or 2 more of those before they're in the comfort seat.
Yeah, I'm looking at Venzer's build. He's gone for that Sterix gauge, so wants to be a little bit more tanky in these fights rather than actually dishing out a lot more damage. You could have gone up towards that Infinity Edge. So this is kind of saying to me that, like, look, Rippy's super far ahead. He's got the Hemo Plague. He's going to be able to deal a whole bunch of damage. Right now, I just need to be the lock up and enable Rippy. And when you've got, Quickset with the CC allowing Venzer to set up, you've got Taxer coming through with that Sejuani ultimate as well. It's going to be very difficult for the likes of Zeph or Cookie to really step up and try and clear these waves. And NG is just trying to force these members back so then Cookie and the likes can move up and try and get these waves before they lose the mid lane turret.
Chip by chip, and despite the bad early game, we're only seeing about a 2,000, maybe 2,500 gold lead in favor of Excel. So yes, they've got the dragons, but it hasn't really meant anything meaningful as of yet. They need to try and turn this into a big mid-game spike. They've got huge items now onto the Vladimir. They've got huge items onto the Yasuo. They need to make a count. And look at that damage from the Q from Zoe. It is ridiculous the amount it does.
I'm looking at this top lane matchup because I was going to remark that Mundo hasn't been in this lane for a huge amount of time, but I'm actually looking. He's on similar CS, and he's actually a level up at this stage as well. So we were kind of knocking Flaxish because he'd fallen behind, but Sendo hasn't really been pushing this advantage too heavily. Yes, he's been in these side waves, but they're just consistently being collected by Flaxish, which means that in team fights, this Mundo's actually pretty terrifying. Has the Sunfire K picked up, the Warmogs is coming through as well, and most certainly he'll be picking up, I'm hoping, a Spirit Visage very quickly to deal with Rippy as well. But he's not actually in that bad of a spot. So overall, I mean, as you're starting to look at like a 5-kill versus 10-kill game, to only be 2k up, 2.5k up at this stage isn't exactly Excel putting the pedal to the metal.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, the stall game from Diabolus has kind of worked right now. It's been very, very good so far. They've brought themselves back. Yes, it was a very abysmal early game, but they've brought it back. Now you have items onto your Mundo. Now Zoe has those 2 items and the Sork Shoe, so she is smashing people with that Paddle Star. You have so many things that you can go towards, as well as, you know, being able to kind of, you know, stop the siege from the side of XL, purely because they have no one range. They can't really take that turret in the mid lane because it's so low. But this could be the next big fight, as we see all 5 members hovering around this dragon. And here we go. We're going to see the full engage jumping in onto Xayah, but she gets the ultimate off anyway. Hemo Plague doesn't land, but it's a 5-man Xayah ultimate. Rakan does go down. Zac goes into his passive, and it's actually going to be 2-3 for the side of XL. They're going to try and chase down the Mundo, but I don't know if they're going to be able to catch him, but they will probably turn onto the Baron.
Yeah, 3 kills go over to Excel. Fantastic engage coming through. I was actually worried because they went on to Cookie, and Cookie was able to get out of dodge very, very quickly, but able to collect onto the other members. It was NG, Zeph, and Anthrax who end up paying the debt for Cookie's misposition. They'll get the Infernal Drake for their troubles, but not wanting to give over a Baron in that situation.
Yeah, Baron is the prize for XL, and like you said, it looked like it was a 5-man Xayah ult that kind of like stunned them all up. It looked really, really good. Unfortunately for the side of Diabolus, it just wasn't enough, and the fact that so much damage went down onto Zoe, Zeph got caught straight up. Great engage, you saw, you know, from Rippy and from Quickstep, and just that Yasuo Alistar combo is so deadly. You just need to be so careful around it, and I feel like there's not respecting it.
Yeah, we're going to see the replay coming up now, and you can see both teams are facing off. I like the way Diabolus enter this. Flaxius, NG, and Anthrax are on the front line, and they look like they're going to be great. But you can see Hextech flash over the wall from Quickset, catches Cookie completely off, which locks up Venzer, and everyone's forced back right now. Cookie, yes, you get several people locked up, but look where Rippy is. Rippy's tearing through the backline, and nobody is peeling him off. So Cookie and Zeph are both completely out of this fight, which means that the rest of the Diablos dive forward to try and take out Excel. They've got no backup damage to follow.
But as well as that, there was no vision, no advanced vision for the side of Diabolus. They had no way of knowing that this, you know, XL were 100% set up for that team fight, and that was kind of their undoing. Like you said, Quickstep, Hextech Flash. That is not a a quick cooldown, or not quick, a quick cast time. Excuse me. And you know, the fact that he's able to charge that up, get max down, kind of distance on it, and still get the engage off is massive, because you're kind of thinking to yourself that when he doesn't have Flash, Alistar is not exactly reliable, but he made it work, and Diabolus, they're going to be scratching their head because that 2,000 gold's now 7,000 gold. Yeah,
and I got to kind of call out Cookie for that one as well, because he should have ulted sooner. He shouldn't have been caught up by Quickset. You can see him, he was running for a good second and a half before he actually got onto him. So if you just cancel that, there's no reason for that panic engage to come through from Diabolus, which is essentially what we saw. Particularly when you're looking at Zac, who's actually, has he gone for the... He's gone for the Runic Echoes, hasn't he?
No, I do believe it is the Cinder Hulk.
Okay, I need new contacts.
Yes. But yes, it is the Cinder Hulk.
Okay, cool. It was just whatever way I was looking. But yeah, I mean, he's not tanky right now. He has the Cinder Hulk, but that's not going to help you against a 7-kill Vladimir, like a Yasuo who's very quickly ramping up towards that Infinity Edge as well. These are guys that are dishing out massive chunks of damage, and you just don't have the survivability right now.
Rakan has nothing. Rakan has no way of surviving any kind of burst coming out from XL, and he's your primary engage. He's the one you want to jump in with the Grand Entrance, with the Charm, and just try and get someone, kind of locked down as such. It's not able to come out here from the side of Diabolus, and right now they are being sieged under their inhibitor turret. As we see another engage, it's going to be a 2-man ult from the Yasuo, and it's Rakan, like I said, going down immediately. Let's bounce over to this side of the map as Zeph almost goes down, but not quite. We're actually going to see Rippy going down, so it's a 1-for-2 trade in favor of XL. We might see more, though, going down, as it's going to be Flaxius flashing away. Cookies, though, in a lot of trouble, gets knocked around and gets dunked. Cookie gets caught in the jar, and that's going to be Inhibitor going down. They might go for the end.
They are most certainly going for the end. Zeph is the last one standing alongside Flaxius right now. He gets pulled in. Actually, might have been able to dissuade them. Flash 4 not quite able to connect, but still Excel walk away, smashing open the base of Diabolus. And what else are you going to do? I mean, you just saw Excel dive your inhib turret, and there was nothing you could do about it.
And that's just the big thing. We're going to have a quick look at the replay now, but look, it's the same engage every single time.
Yeah. And I mean, they're consistently able to follow up. And look where Rippy is, look where Venzer is. Every single time they are threatening the backline. Cookie, 1 auto, 2 auto, ult. That's all that is gotten out in that entire fight. Zeph was a non-factor as well. Every time that they find this engage, there's nothing to help the backline, and it's just Diablos falling prey to Excel.
Get dunked. That is a statement from the Darius right there. That is saying that, yep, you can't do anything. And now the Infinity Edge has been finished on Yasuo. The Zhonya's has been finished onto the Vladimir on the side of XL. There is just so much available to them in terms of that, and the Starks Gauge for the Darius Sendu. It's almost like you would want, from the side of Diabolus, you want a monumental mistake in order to even come close to coming back into this game.
And that was why, if we cast our minds back to the start of the game, it was, I need to see Cookie and Anthrax get ahead, because the team that Diablos have right now are great at engaging, not so much at disengaging. We can go in, yeah, sure, no problem, but getting back out is a big, big issue for us. So what I really needed to see was NG put their priority in getting these guys ahead, so they could be the ones making the proactive plays. But we'll have to see if this one...
Yeah, nobody with him at all. Zac just gets completely chunked out, but they've got a lot of damage there with the Xayah. Xayah still untouched in the back of the fight, but there is the ultimate from Yasuo. There's just no way of consistently going in on top of this. Zeph does have a lot of damage, but he's not able to put it down. It's a double kill for Venzer as he's still looking for more. Rippy just heals so much. Look at the damage. He ends up trading his life 1 for 1. Flaxish finally able to do some work onto this backside, but it's too late. It ends up being a 3 for 1. Hextech Flash is failed.
Warning sign. It was a warning sign.
It was a warning.
Yeah.
Quickstep was just like, by the way, I can still do this. I can still do this. And he ends up backing away 3 for 1 in favor of XL. They're overstepping a little bit, but honestly, with the way they are, 10,000 gold ahead, they can do that and get away with it.
Well, I mean, is it really overstepping when you've taken 3 kills, possibly 4 now on Flaxish?
Yeah, Flaxish just has no hope whatsoever. Venzer gets himself a delayed triple. And they're going to be able to take this bot lane turret with relative ease. Super minions jumping into the top side.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been absolutely non-stop from Excel this game. They have just gone from strength to strength, and there's just been nothing from Diablos that has been able to stop them whatsoever. We're talking about at least one winning lane in the bot lane. Hasn't come to fruition. Zeph is pretty much null and void because of everyone being able to dodge the abilities that are coming out. The Paddle Star is never going to connect. Now they're working in towards that Ocean Drake, and it's only a matter of time. 44 seconds on Baron, 2 inhibs down, and XL are poised to take the game.
And XL excelling at taking down the Devil's Diablos, and they really are looking just so strong. And if you're Diablos right now, yes, you can still win this game. It is 100% possible with the items that you have finally got onto the Xayah and the Zoe. You've got the 3 items. Void Staff, Morellonomicon, and the Ludens with the Sword Shoes is a huge amount of damage, along with the IE and the Rapid Fire Cannon gives you a huge amount of true damage. But it's just one of those, you know, ridiculous things where like XL have to, you know, misstep so hard that Diablos are able to come back into this.
But you don't even have the scaling there. I mean, realistically, when you're looking at it, Vladimir is in a great spot. Yasuo scales so well, and yes, you've got your AD carry there, but there's no real way for Cookie to get into these fights, to dish out the damage that you need to. It's great that your feathers can tear through multiple different members, but the shredding gets blocked by the wind wall every single time, and Venzer and Quickset have just dove every time onto Zeph and Cookie, and there's nowhere for them to go. They're just left, and Anthrax, oh, hang on a second.
Yeah, actually, Rippy finds himself caught out. Has to Zhonya's. He's going to be dead to rights, pretty much. The rest of XL trying to come in on top of this. They do end up getting the Yasuo ultimate, forcing the Xayah back with her ultimate as well. But there's just no damage. What are you doing, XL? Double kill to the Xayah. Like you said, if she's given time, she can get the damage down. Flash for Zeph and Quickset. But what the hell was that?
Yeah, I mean, once you saw that Rippy was gone, that's one of your big damage sources down. They were nearly able to get onto Cookie and kill them, but there was no way of doing it. Venzer didn't have the setup you've seen every time. Quickset couldn't get onto the back line, and it means that their fight against Diablos falls apart. Venzer, though, might be able to get onto Zeph.
Might be able to. Zhonya's has been burned. There's the Sleepy Bubble Trouble, but here comes the Alistair and the Zac. We're going to see the ultimate used both onto Zoe and the Zac, but that's Venzer using so much damage. NG in so much trouble, forced to flash away. and that was just a little bit greedy there from Zeph. He did not need to be in that mid lane.
I don't think that was a little bit greedy. That was very greedy. I mean, if you let a Venzer on Yasuo just tear through the minion line directly on top of you, you're in a bad shape. And Flaxish, what are you doing there?
Flaxish, you do not need to be there, but he does not need to be afraid either, as no one has any healing debuff. So he's, or grievous wounds is the official term. So he's relatively safe, but yeah, I feel like XL, you know, they made a massive mistake, but then Zeph just kind of gives it back to them, and now they're back on the Baron.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, who's there to stop it? Cookie is farming in the bot lane. You can see Anthrax and also Flaxish are just sitting in the mid lane. Can't connect or contest. There's no Zeph. So an easy pickup for XL. And we've already said it. Both the inhib turrets are down in top and bottom lane. This is just walk in at this stage and take them, because when you've got Quickset, his flash is coming up very, very soon. That's just an easy setup for your team fight.
GA finished up onto Yasuo. That was before the last fight as well. As we see Spirit Visage as well for the Darius in the top side. And like you said, it's kind of hard to know where you go from here. But like I said, Diablos are hoping for those, you know, those mistakes, but from XL, and it can happen. We just saw it there. Rippy going to the wrong side, completely getting caught out, get bursted down. They have got the damage. It's just whether or not they have the time in order to put out that damage.
I'm just looking at Quickset's scoreline. It's just such a sexy scoreline for a support. 0-0-17. It's pretty much been a flawless performance from him. Not so much from Rippy, who has been caught out once or twice. We need to be careful about that, but he's on Vladimir. Should be able to keep himself nice and topped up.
Yeah, needs to be careful though. Executioner's Calling has been picked up there by Cookie, so he has got the Grievous Wounds on top of him now, and with that extra amount of damage, you know, you can be, with the Hemoplague, expecting a huge heal, and you don't get it, you're screwed. So, need to be careful of that. They have got Baron buff running. It's going to be Rippy going up towards that top side to try and push in that wave, as we have bot wave pushing as well.
Yeah, the second they see Rippy on top lane, XL need to back off, because otherwise NG can so easily get the engage down that they need. Vladimir is so crucial to their damage source and diving the backline right now that they really don't want to find themselves caught out. But instead it looks like they're going to go up and join Rippy and see if they can push in this top lane. As we're saying, no turret there, so it's really going to be tough for Diablos to try and defend this.
Yeah, all inhibitors now up for the side of Diablos. This could potentially be the final fight as XL push in towards that top side. Venzer just dashing and darting. They will take that inhibitor pretty much uncontested. Now they rotate back. They're going to most likely go towards the mid lane or the bot lane or both and try and just take this out as nicely and calmly as they possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, there's no need to overextend at all. They've all the cards in their favor. I mean, they got the Baron, the Dragon is spotting in just a moment as well. That's going to be the Elder Drake for them that they can so easily pick up too. So what's the rush? Just take it easy, play it by the book, move the waves in, get them in the right position. You see Rippy working through that top wave, so it'll collapse at the same time as they're hitting mid. Like, it's just textbook play from XL right now, and I'm so glad to see them kind of turn over this leaf, because the funnel, as we were saying, was kind of where they found their success, but they're just showing they can play multiple different styles.
They can. NG goes in, Let's Bounce goes over, brings two people into the base, and this could be Diablos going in for it. They do get the Yasuo ultimate off, and Daya is dead, as is the Rakan. NG doesn't really have any more place in. Oh my god, that damage from the Vladimir. That's going to be all she wrote, ladies and gentlemen. The rest of the kills are going to be going over relatively soon. They're tanky, but not that tanky, and it's just padding stats right now for the side of XL.
I mean, you might as well at this stage. They've looked absolutely phenomenal throughout this game, and Flaxish is the last member standing. Still standing, but
not
just
anymore,
down.
he's not.
Yeah, so it will be the game going over to XL. They have looked so good, and I can't even pick one member on that just looks good. Rippy, that phenomenal performance. You can see on Venzer as well, and that Yasuo was just great. I mean, what do you do against that?
I don't know, Rob. What do you do against that?
You flip-flop. That's what you do. So what you do is you go, actually,
I didn't even know this was happening. I didn't even know this was happening.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we've got your shoe on the table now.
Yeah, that's my
oh, that's
shoe.
yours. Oh. He actually had to borrow a shoe.
Yeah, he literally wrote me a note saying, give me your shoe. I need it.
Nice gag, boys.
We did it.
So
this is what happens when you put two Irish guys on.
Yeah.
You just get shoes.
Maybe regretting my decision. We'll see. So, impressive stuff from XL. They made Diabolus look like school children.
Yeah.
It didn't even look close.
No. That was what you'd see a top team coming through and playing in the qualifiers. That was what I was expecting to play. Not even, I mean, the open qualifiers. That's what I was expecting to see, but they just played it so well. Even like on a dive like this, where you can see they very quickly disengage, where it's Taxter who's able to, he gets brought up, but is able to escape out the back. You know, to see Rippy is playing frontline, and I like that smart choice there, because it means that it gives time to Taxter to get away as the rest are trying to take care of Rippy, and it's just this smart communication between the two of them to just say, look, we can make this play. Quickset were like, this looks terrible, but again they're like, no, we can turn it around and instantly collapse. It's just
that's like hard clap. They just literally hard clapped Diabolus there, and that exactly is something that we always mention about one of the only weaknesses of Diabolus, is that they are so predictable in what they want to do from the early to mid game, which is go top, dive top. XL knew it, and they were set up for it, and that was unbelievable. That gave Venza the platform to carry the game from.
Yeah. And I think you could see it, like they just, every single time, we pointed out in the broadcast as well, whereas like they had already moved multiple members up there because they could see this coming.
Yeah, and we talked about how Darius, when he gets behind, becomes a bit of a fish. Flaxfish was the fish. Flaxfish was what he was. I know he loves his fizz, and I know he tweeted about it, but he was as useless as a fish on land. Like, he just was not able to do anything. Yes, fair enough, he was able to stay alive, but at that point, everyone else was dead, and there was no point. He just had to run away.
And XO never let off the hammer. They continuously applied pressure, looked for dives over and over again, with a very strong dive composition as well. We did talk about the potential for dives coming out from Diabolus, but XL were diving like monsters, especially with the Alistair for Quickset.
Yeah, that was something we never really touched on, because I didn't think they would be the ones making the proactive early plays. If you've got an Alistair, you've got Rippy on the Vladimir as well, who can just pull and get rid of that turret aggro, and you've got the Sejuani there as well. I mean, that's a very heavy dive team, and with a lot of multiple members that can take aggro, drop aggro, come back into the fight, so it meant that they had such a nice, strong composition for making the plays that we just saw.
So do you think this is a hark back to the XL that we knew from the EU Masters? Is this EU Masters XL in final form again?
Honestly, it looks like they came into this first game especially just incredibly prepared. There was quick picks, it was quick bans. They pretty much like one for one, and that's kind of a massive compliment to their backhouse staff, because it looked like they knew exactly when Diabolus was going to step and where they were going to step, because there was nothing they weren't prepared for. Xayah Rakan, massive bot lane combo, don't care. We genuinely don't care. We know you're going to pick it because we know you're going to first pick Rakan. We're not going to care about it. And I just think that, a massive, kind of look into their kind of, team as such, is that their structure as a UK org is always about their backhouse staff. And yes, they take time to mold as a team, but they're finally looking like the XL we knew from last split.
And here again, just every single time Cookie tries to get away, and they somehow find their way in. That was actually Diabolus having a little bit of a comeback team fight, because it was an overdive by XL. I think this was a sort of mid-ish game, but realistically, this was a small blip in the road for XL overall.
Yeah, I think that was one of the rare mistakes that they made this game, and yes, it ended up costing them, but I mean, time and time again, they were able to bring themselves back, and there wasn't much they could do. They very quickly copped on to how they could get the advantages that they needed, and then how to play, because a lot of the issues that you'll see with teams coming in is that they'll know what their composition is good at, but they don't set it up correctly. But every single time XL were entering a team fight, it was Rippy and Venza were always on the backline. Every single fight that they were in, it was somehow they were onto Cookie, they were onto Zeph, and Diabolos just fell to runes. And that's, I think, is very much a case of Quickset's great engages, Venza very quickly being able to follow up, and Rippy finding multiple different flank routes in.
Yeah, absolutely, and XL completely executed on that fight. And now they stand themselves 1-0 in the series. I mean, Diabolus have to make that uphill battle to get back into the finals here. XL will be very happy with their performance. Again, probably the most dominant that we've seen someone beat Diabolus. I think the only time I've seen someone beat Diabolus in that way was the first Misfits game from the previous tournament, where it didn't look close. But honestly, overall, XL looked like a refreshed team coming into this second tournament.
Yeah, I feel like XL have got to be super happy with that. And, there's no kind of, badness as such, from the sense of like, they got a massive amount of energy from them, just kind of like, going into that first game, you absolutely destroy your opponent. Second game, you're going to be feeling good. You're going to be feeling super, confident in your play. And the fact that, looking at these team fights as well, the fact that Rippy constantly was able to get onto those backlines, forcing back. Fair enough, the Zoe and the Xayah might not have died straight away, but they're away from the fight. That's all he's looking to do. If he either blows you up or he gets you away from the fight. And XL, I honestly feel like, they might even take this 2-0 now, because that was a huge display of power.
Yeah, I think there'll be some adaptations in draft for Diabolus going into the next draft. I think one of the things that I had a worry about with the Diabolus composition was that, like, they really didn't have damage. Like, when it came to strict 5v5 team fights, they just didn't have damage. I mean, Zoe is really good at roaming. She's really good when she's ahead, making picks before team fights happen, poking before team fights happen. But in a strict 5v5 scenario, if I want to have a Vladimir or I want to have a Zoe, I'm going to take Vlad every single day of the week. You know, Vlad will absolutely decimate Zoe in most of these scenarios. And I think maybe Diabolus were hoping to snowball that laning phase a bit more than they actually did. I think that was maybe where they were hoping to get some of their joy from.
I think that does come back to the draft phase, though, because we could see several junglers were banned away. So when we got to that point, NG didn't really have anything available he could go for. I mean, the Graves was there, yes, but that hasn't really been where they found the most comfort. They really like these tank engages, like the Sejuani that was picked away, something like the Talia that can get that engage going for them. But all these guys were banned away, and it meant that when it came down to it, they locked in the Zac that was negligent. There was nothing that was going on. At no point in time did I go, cool, NG's about to make the play. It was like, no, NG's just lost more jungle. Like, that was it.
It is a weak jungle, and Sejuani can punish it early on, and something that NG just wasn't super comfortable, I think, in that scenario. I don't think Flaxis had much carry potential as did the Darius, and they obviously spent a lot